everybody, welcome to a new video. In today's video we are going to talk about a new pattern from So Over It, the Meredith dress. A few words how I got to sew this dress. A few months ago I applied for their Pattern Insiders call, and I was lucky enough, and I'm very happy to say that I have been chosen to be one of their Pattern Insiders, together with a little bit more than 30 other very talented ladies. And the first pattern, so the idea is that we get to make the new patterns if we want a little bit earlier than before they are coming on the market, and like that you get by launching of the pattern the idea of the pattern on all kind of sizes, size bodies, and of course in a variety of fabrics. So I was very excited about this one because I think in my whole sewing life I made something like, I think this is the third wrap dress ever, and it is definitely the first in knit fabric. The Meredith dress, it has, so it's a truly wrap dress. It has a nice small yoke here with cute gathers. It has two lengths sleeves, longer sleeve and this 3/4 sleeve. It has a band that is, the band has a seam at the center back, so it has a band that is doubled, and of course the long ties that they are coming on the hole here on the right, and then you're wrapping around everything. It has also two lengths. One is a few centimeters over the knee, and the other one is a few centimeters above the knee. And this dress, this was my my test garments, and for this one I chose to make the shorter length because my biggest concern was the bust area and the back, because I need to make a Swayback adjustment, but I don't want to mess up with my good fabric, and it was really pity if this fabric was messed up. So I chose to make this one as a test garment. Let me think. So as a size wise, I decided based on the finish measurements and on my body measurements, I decided to make a size 12, and this is a straight size 12, and the fabric is a ponte knit. It does have stretch, a little bit lesser than this one. This is a cotton jersey, and so I made this one in straight size 12, and I knew immediately that I had to have a little bit more room here on at the hips. You see in the pictures it's a little bit tight, much tighter than this one. So the adjustments I made based on this test garment were to make from the waist down. So from here, from the waist, I blended to a size 14. I added, I think, you know, it's like one extra centimeters, as you can see here in the pink paper, exactly from the waist, because I did like how the waist was fitting. So added here to a size 14, not to the front, so not to this side, to the front panel, only on the side seams. I added front and back, I added the extra centimeter. The sleeves, I really like the sleeves, and I think that especially with such a busy print it's nice to have a little bit of skin showing. And for the back, finally I took 2 centimeters out for the Swayback adjustment, and this pattern, the back is cutted on the fold, and I am not struggling because I'm making this adjustment almost every time, but I always think what is the best way to make a Swayback adjustment on a pattern that needs to be cutted on the fold. And most of the time I'm using the method from this book, where you make the same Swayback adjustment. You take the wedge in the back of the pattern, and then you need to bring the pattern back to a straight edge. I don't know if you know what I mean. So you take the wedge here, and then of course the pattern is going to be a little bit slanted, and then you need to add it back here to get this edge straight, and then the amount that you have here, you need to take it out from here. But you know, I'm not always happy with that, and I'm always in search for other methods. And this time I used the slide and pivot method from Nancy Zeman, and I think it is a very easy method to use, because you are not messing up with the cutting fold line. That needs to be straight to be able to cut it in fold. So you only you need to, maybe if you put a search here in YouTube, you'll find it very easy, the pivot and slide method, where you are outlining the edge of your original pattern. Then you mark, in my case was 2 centimeters lower, and then you slide the pattern, you make this, you draw this line, the neckline, and then you put a pin. You should mark your seam allowance on your original pattern, like this. As you can see here, the difference between the original and the pattern that is now. So, and then you put here a pin, and then you slide it down back to the original armhole, and then you get this one, this edge. But if you look for pivot and slide, I think she did even make a video for it. I'm going to try to find it, and I'll put a link here in the description. So this is a method I used for to make the Swayback adjustment in this pattern. Also, this book is one of my favorites, and I'm using it all the time, because it has, actually in this book, it has a lot of it has, of course, only fitting problems. But the greatest thing about this book is that you get actually 3 methods: the seam allowance method, the slash method that you most of the time use when you adjust patterns, and also this slide and pivot method. I think this is a really great book, and you also get advice also how you you can change ready to wear clothes to you know, when you have different kind of fitting problems. So this is for me a very important book in my sewing room. Back to the dress. So I made a Swayback adjustment with the pivot and slide method, and that worked very nice. I took out 2 centimeters, and other than that, the dress is really easy and fast to sew. It's a bit of fabric, because, you know, first of all, you have, of course, here 2 panels almost, that this is almost doubled, but it's also in this cotton jersey, because of the print. As you can see here, it has a line of flowers that is running down, and I had to, of course, to move a little bit around with the pieces to get the flowers on a nice line, or, you know, not crazy strange flowers everywhere. But the problem was that my table is not big enough to cut everything in one time, so I almost ran out of fabric. I had 2.5 meters from it, and it was really a struggle to fit these bands, because this band is really it's a really long piece of a pattern, and you need to, you know, before you cut anything, you need to be careful that you have enough fabric for everything. So as you can see here, this is the band, but it's really big, and it's also curving at the moment. So this, when you are cutting everything, I think it's better to put everything on the floor and to be sure that you are going to get everything fitted, because on this one, the inside of the band, I had to cut a piece with seam allowance, sew it together, because I didn't have enough to sew it in one piece. Of course, I saw on Instagram somebody made it in a dark navy blue, the dress, the main body of the dress, and the band and the belt were made in yellow fabric. Very nice contrast, so that is also a way to save yourself if you are out of the fabric. The instructions of the dress, they are pretty easy. I mean, the dress is not difficult to sew. But some things that I did different were to for the shoulders I used clear elastic to give a little strength to the shoulders, that not to stretch out. But in the instructions you are instructed to sew the seams together and then to add the elastic in the seam allowance. I think that is a little bit it's not how it's supposed to be, because this is my opinion, because if you are sewing first the seam as it is, of course it's going to stretch out, and putting the elastic back in the seam allowance is not going to help your fabric to get back in shape. So I think the best idea is, I used to sew this, I used the serger, and the serger has a small hole, or at least in my case the foot has a small hole where I'm feeding the elastic, and when the serger is sewing, it's feeding the elastic together with my fabric, and everything is getting sewn in one time. But of course you can sew this also with the sewing machine. You can put it on the back panel and on the shoulder seam, and then you can sew all the 3 layers, the 2 fabrics and the elastic in one time. And don't stretch it, because then you are going to get gathers in your shoulder seam. So or you can use instead of the elastic, you can use a piece of seam tape, or you can even iron a piece of interfacing on the back shoulder seam, and that is also going to help your fabric not to stretch. But I think it's important to do that before you are sewing the seam and not after, because after that there is no need, as your seam, it will be already stretched out of shape. In the instructions there is not so much saying about how to finish your seams or things like that. I think the idea is that you know already how to do that. I used for my, but the most of the time I think is used the sewing machine, because the seams are pressing flat and things like that, and open. But I used the serger for almost the complete dress. Only of course top stitching and things like that I did with the sewing machine. And also to use the serger with your on the right side seam is a little bit tricky, because you have the hole there that needs to be you need to let it open, and of course that can be a little bit tricky. But I've sewn, I don't know if you can see, I've sewn until here, and then I let the opening open, skip that, and then of course further, and here I opened the seam. I did have to stitch a little bit with the sewing machine above the hole and under the hole, and then top stitch it, the seam allowance pressed, top stitched, and then very close to the seam I trimmed everything away, and now it's looking very neat also from the outside. And I think with the serger it's very easy to make, and you have immediately also a very neat inside. The band is also I stitched the 2 bands, the inside and the outside of the band. I stitched them together with the sewing machine, because there is no need to use the serger. It's a lot of thread that there is really not necessary to have it in your band. Also there is the instructions are saying that you should you can choose if you want to interface your band or not. I chose to interface it because it's always nice and to have a little bit of structure here, and of course I think it's maybe helping also with gaping. There is no gaping, and if you have a stretched band you have the chance on to get gaping here around. So I interfaced in my case the outer band, and I think it's important also after you sew the 2 bands together, so the outside and the inside band together, it's also important to understitch the whole thing to be sure that this seam is staying to the inside and is not picking to the outside, especially if you are using 2 kind of fabrics. But anyway, it's nice because you get, if you understitch, it's nice because the seam is turning much better to the inside, and then you get a very nice and neat band. So I understitched everything and then stitched everything together with the sewing machine. Here, at this corner, it can be a little bit tricky. There is a point where you should turn, and this is of course a little bit difficult with the serger. you could baste first and then come with the serger again. I did my best and I did it directly with the serger. You know, it's a knit fabric. Knit fabrics are really forgiving, and you have a little bit playroom there. After that, after I saw the band with the serger, I used the sewing machine to top stitch everything, and now it's staying very nice and very neat everywhere. Also, another change I made was to shorten the bells. They're really long. I think I took like 27 centimeters out, and this is, I think this length is much better. So, and that's of course is eating also a little bit lesser fabric. And other than that, not so much changing. This is really long. I used for the hems, because I was too lazy to take my cover stitch out, I used a double needle, also looking very professional. You don't know if you are not looking at the inside. And these were I think the most difficult part on this dress is actually to turn this point here at this point here, because it needs to be to look a little bit neat. And the construction is actually very nice, because you make the bells and then you put them, you sandwich them between the inside and outside of this band, and then you get here a very nice, you can see here it's looking very nice and very neat in one time. So that's nice. And of course, having the gathers here, you have a very nice fit over the bust. And I really love the yoke. You can go of course you can choose some contrasting for the yoke, or you can use piping for between the yoke and the bodice. Of course, there are a lot of possibilities. This dress, as you can see it in the pictures, is the longer. This floral one is the longer version of the Meredith dress. But then I took, I think, like 2 centimeters off from the length. Of course, I had a lot of for this one. I had also a lot of fabric options in my stash. And this one, this fabric is coming from a web shop in the Netherlands, from Driessenstoffen. And they had a few weeks ago they made a collection from you know, like prints from their own, something like that, an exclusive collection. And the fabric, the quality is very nice. It's a bit thicker cotton jersey. The only thing that is not so nice is the fact that it's really, I mean, it's jersey that is really curly. And when I started on this one, I was thinking, well, it's going to go very easy and very fast, because I knew how this one went. But this one was the ponte knit. It was very easy to sew. The ponte knit is very stable, of course, and it's staying flat. But this was curling like crazy, and that was not nice. I don't know if these fabrics are still available. Some of them they are still there. I'm going to put a link to the website, and maybe you can take a look there. They're like €8 for a meter, but I think the quality is really nice. And I had to choose between this one, you know, to make the Meredith, or this one. But I found this one a little bit too busy. Actually, it's the other way, because it has some birds on it. I think they're all directions. So this one, it was a possibility. And from the same by Lisanne collection, this is the name of the collection on their website. It was this one that is also very pretty, and another one also from the same quality, but from this one I have only 2 meters, and I don't think it was possible to make the Meredith from 2 meters. It was this one. I think it was a little bit too pale for me. And the last one from the same collection was this one. You know, everything is blue with flowers, I know, so I could go either way. Something like that. Also nice and stretchy, like wearing pyjama, but then in the form of a dress. And another option was this one. This is also coming from them, I think. but I was afraid that the stretch is not going to be enough. This is also kind of jersey, but as you can see, it has a foil coating or something like that, like a kind of velvet, but it's not really stretchy, and I think you do need a little bit of stretch for the, especially for the back. In the front, you know, you have these gathers and you have a little bit of room, and also for the sleeves. I don't know if it's very comfortable, but it is a knit fabric, but because of this print, I think it's taking almost all of the stretch out of it, and that's why I skipped this one. Of course, the possibilities are endless with this one. We can go a lot of directions with your fabrics, and having here a little bit the gathers, you do get a little bit of room at your bust. Yeah, other than that, nothing special. I really love the dress. This one I think is really fantastic, and I know the pattern is very nice, and I like the fit, but in this version I think the fabric is the big star. And I'm sure this pattern is going to be made again, because it's a very comfortable dress, and I really like it like this with the three-quarter sleeve. So for me this is definitely a winner. This is what I had to say about the Meredith dress. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, you can put them here in the video description. I will put a link to the pattern in the video description also. If you enjoyed the video, you can share it with your sewing friends. Give me a like if you enjoy it. Also, if you want to be the first one to see the next videos here on the channel, you can subscribe to my channel and put your notifications on, and then you'll get a message when a video is coming up online. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!